All right, we're getting low on gigawatts, running out of power in the flux capacitor. Our time travel is coming to an end.
And we might just be living in the best time ever for horror movies.
Welcome. This is the Fright Club podcast.
I'm Hope Madden.
And I'm George Wolf, and we're from madwolf.com. Now, wait a minute. Just last week, you said, and I agreed, that the last decade that we did, from 2000 to 2009, was the best. Now,
open your mind,
what are you
George.
saying? What are you saying?
Just open yourself. Open yourself up to the truth that it's right now is the best time to be making horror movies, and certainly the best time to be seeing horror movies.
Okay, well, we will discuss, because we're moving up to present day. We are going from 2010 to now, the first half
right now.
Of the 2010s. And there's some good stuff here as we count down not only our top 5, but a bunch that didn't make it. And we look at this list that didn't make it and go, what?
Yeah, I know. They're awesome. Before we jump into that, though, as always, we want to thank some people for complaining. And also, we got one congratulations for getting it right, so that's good. But our old buddy at NacMac, he finally listened to the 90s podcast and had a couple of good bones of contention. Candyman. He wanted to at least hear about Candyman, even if it didn't make the list. And also The Vanishing. And we're going to just, through the generosity of our own hearts, assume he means the original of Warloose, not the remake.
So,
yeah, I'm sure, because he's a sound-hearted individual, and I'm sure he did not mean that awful remake.
Yeah, because the original Vanishing, I can't. You know, when we first brought that up, when you first read me his comment, thank you. And you can always tweet at us. We're at MaddWolf, MaddWolf, and we love to keep this conversation going as always. I didn't really think, the first thought into my head was that the original Vanishing, wasn't even really a horror movie. And you said, oh, no, it is.
I think it is, yeah. I think it is. And I don't want to say why, because if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil that.
No, it's definitely one you don't want to spoil, but I do. I think it's
really?
a horror movie.
I thought it more of a thriller, but
maybe
okay,
because
I'll go there. But what?
Claustrophobic.
Okay, don't say any more. But the original is much more chilling. The remake just wimped out in a big way. Yeah. So, NacMac, we're gonna guess that you think you're talking about the original, the foreign film. So,
but then last week we did, like you said, 2000 to 2010, or 2009.
Well, we didn't say anything about Candyman yet, did we?
Oh, well.
What'd you think, Candyman, real quick? That's some cool stuff.
It does have some cool stuff.
I like when he opened his coat and he had all those...
He's a great character.
Yeah, he is.
And oh my God, that voice. And the thing is, I can't see that actor in anything else without calling him Candyman. I mean, it made an impression.
And then Virginia Madsen.
I know.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has some...
it does.
We're not going to talk the sequels, but the original Candyman has some visuals, so thank you for that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. So, yeah, but there were so many. It was crazy how many to choose from, 2000, 2009. And our buddy Craig Hunter over at ScreenRelish.com, the two of us write all the time for ScreenRelish.com, and he is an avid listener and a very helpful contributor. He always tells us what he thinks, which is great.
Yeah.
And he made a really, really great, he had a great thought. We did not mention the Oscar-nominated and brilliant Shadow of a Vampire.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
It really is.
That's a great movie. Oh, my God, Willem Dafoe. Plus, it's a great concept, and we love the original Nosferatu that this is kind of playing on.
Yeah.
So, that
Willem Dafoe, fantastic performance.
Oh, my God.
And who's the Eddie Izzard?
Oh, yeah, Eddie Izzard was great.
If you're an Eddie Izzard fan for his comedy, you got to check this out.
Oh, yeah, and John Malkovich was great. Yeah. He played Murnau, and he was great, too. So, I mean, the whole movie, and it's just so clever, and it's so well done.
I know. I love how...
And Udo Kier, the effortlessly weird Udo Kier.
Creepy.
Oh,
just his eyes alone.
Oh, yeah.
But I love how Murnau just treats Max Schreck, treats the, just orders him around and treats it's hilarious. It's darkly funny, but really well done. So good call there. What else we got?
Over on Facebook, our friend Bridget pointed out, and actually Craig as well, they both, and it's funny to me, I didn't realize Hostel 2 is remembered better than Hostel, but that's both of them. They kind of recommended both, but both of them, I think, prefer Hostel 2, and we didn't mention really either one. And they are, they're better than people thought they were when they came out. They definitely are that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know they have an audience, and I know that... that's fine. I'm not going to quibble with that. It's just not my bag.
Right.
They're not my thing.
I know.
But that's cool. If you like that, good on you.
But we got one. Congratulations, and I think a new friend at Stalker Film, and they liked that we counted because if you may or may not remember, we cheated and we had a tie for number 5. So
that's all right. We went to the judges, and the judges are us, and we said you can cheat.
Yeah, that's right.
So we had a tie.
Our second number 5 was Wolf Creek, and at Stalker Film was happy to see that.
Love Wolf Creek.
Yeah, you can't not have that on. That's impossible.
Well, see, that's one I just said that Hostel and Hostel 2 aren't my bag. there are some people, and actually some horror film fans that Wolf Creek is not their bag. They don't see the merit in it, which I just can't understand.
Well, we'll fight about that all day.
I love
because John Jarratt is so great.
He's so good.
Oh my God, he's so great. That you spend the whole movie hoping he's an actor. Like you think to yourself, I think this cast is in jeopardy right now.
Exactly. Wow. So yeah, all good stuff, and we haven't even got into our top 5 of the first half of the 2010s. So let's do that.
Okay.
With one that does everybody love this? I think they do. Well, I know a couple people that don't, which we won't get into.
My sister doesn't like it very much, which was crazy.
Friends.
Yeah.
Well, we've already established she doesn't. She's not a credible.
No, Joy doesn't like it.
Oh, okay.
That's crazy talk right there.
All right, that is crazy talk. Well, let's concentrate on the people that do. And at number 5, it's The Cabin in the Woods.
Sign says closed.
We're looking for, what's it called?
Tillerman Road.
And to get you there, getting back. That's your concern.
The lambs have passed through the gate. They are come to the killing floor.
I seriously believe something weird is going on.
We have to stay together. This isn't right. We should split up.
Yeah, good idea.
Really?
Yeah, The Cabin in the Woods is it's fun, it's scary, it's smart. There's so much to like about it.
Of all the self-referential horror films that there are in the world, this might be the best. And it's so clever and it's so joyous. It's such a love of horror movies that if you love horror movies, I think it's hard not to just get giddy about it.
Yeah, it's meta, as the term has come to be known. It celebrates what's great about horror movies, but it does it in such a smart way.
Probably partly because it's co-written by Joss Whedon.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah,
he's shown he can pretty much do any genre of film and do it well.
And then Drew Goddard directed, and I got to interview Drew Goddard.
Wait, let me bend over and pick up that name you dropped. That's very cool.
I was very giddy and silly the whole time because I had just seen the movie and it's so great.
No, you weren't half as giddy there as when the first time you interviewed Bruce Campbell.
No, that was embarrassing. I
what
embarrassed
an embarrassing
myself.
mess.
Shut up.
The second time.
Yeah, someday you're gonna interview Katy Perry, and we'll see who behaves worse.
The second time we interviewed Bruce Campbell, much better.
Thank you.
And I don't think he remembered you.
From the first cackling goofball, you think he forgot that one?
He's so cool. He's so cool on the phone.
Ever.
And speaking of dropping names, but anyway, that's so true. It shows not a reverence for the material, a love for the material.
Yeah.
They're celebrating it.
Yeah.
All the trappings.
All the time,
you're out
deconstructing
in the woods.
it. Oh yeah. It's just so well done. It's creepy. It's scary. You're afraid of the of the hillbilly zombies. What a great choice.
But then it throws that twist in at the end.
Oh yeah. Plus the elevator ride, greatest elevator ride.
ride.
Oh my God.
And the big superstar cameo at the end, which is perfect.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just love every frame of that movie. It's so much fun, and it was hard, as it always is. It was hard for us to decide what was going to be number 5.
Oh, so hard.
The list of almost number 5s. Although once you boil it down, we had to just say Cabin in the Woods is just a better film than the ones that didn't make it. Yeah. But I'm going to run down.
We could have gone to the judges and had a tie with about 20 films.
I know.
We'd be here all day.
And the thing is, there's one movie that I have been trying to get onto the podcast since we started for one reason or another, and it never quite makes it. And that was the one that originally I thought was going to be number 5, and it's not. And that's The Woman.
Oh, The Woman.
Which I love.
Yeah. What is that actress's name?
Pollyanna McIntosh.
Oh, man.
So great.
Yeah.
So great.
That's one. There's probably a few movies like this, but that's one where if you come across somebody who has seen The Woman, you just kind of give yourself that knowing
that's
look.
Right.
Like,
oh yeah, we've seen it.
We've seen it. We've been there.
But speaking of The Woman, another great one, The Woman in Black.
Yeah.
And we were so happy that was good because our son is a huge, huge Harry Potter fan, so we kind of feel like Daniel Radcliffe grew up playing ping pong in our basement.
Right.
It's like
Exactly.
We just want him to do well, so we were so happy that was
surprisingly good in an old school haunted house, just fun sort of way. That one, I like that one.
Yeah, the sequel was bad.
But
it was good. Another great one. I know you love it. I love it. The Last Circus.
Oh, The Last Circus.
That actually was very close to making this list.
That's
that was closer
freaky.
than
That
the
is
others.
freaky.
I love that one so much.
And again, this is a list of movies that didn't quite make it.
But you should see anyway.
For sure. That shows you why these years are so
They're just
full
stocked.
of great horror movies. Yeah.
And I know Bridget on Facebook will agree. Another one that we kicked around was Kill List.
Man,
Thank you.
Yeah, Kill List is great. From that one of the first kills where the guy goes, "Thank you."
Oh my God,
I know.
that's where it just takes a turn. You're like, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Kill List. Yeah,
And one that I know you loved a lot, actually, that I think maybe you didn't expect to, the remake of The Evil Dead, or the reboot of The Evil Dead.
I really enjoyed that because, don't throw things at me. The original Evil Dead it doesn't really, but I came out of that.
I like it. I like the whole series, and I didn't really expect to like the reboot, but it was great. And partly, I think, because Diablo Cody was one of the writers, and I feel like you can feel her pen all over that thing. Yeah, it's a good one.
That's a lot of blood.
It's a lot of blood.
I really enjoyed that one, huh?
And then a couple of all of these, the last ones, they're pretty underseen. Most of them are foreign. Snowtown Murders, Australian movie. I love so much. I don't think you did. It's so good.
Okay.
It's so good. Big Bad Wolves is Israeli. So
Which,
good.
by the way, did you notice? We mentioned Bridget again on Facebook. She picked up the soundtrack
Yeah, it's great.
for Big Bad Wolves. I mean, all right. Was
She's
that
committed.
Record Store Day?
That's right, man. She knows what she likes, and she goes after it.
That's a Sunday afternoon playlist, if I ever heard one.
And then another one that actually our whole Columbus Facebook community loves. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Oh yeah,
that's a killer movie.
So good.
And then a favorite of mine is the original is a Mexican film. Yeah, it's from Mexico, and then the remake a couple of years later, an American film, We Are What We Are.
Oh.
And that's one, when they remade it, I was like, oh God, there's no way they can remake this movie. But what they did was they made a very American, while still keeping to the roots of the film. So they're very different, but both worth watching. If you're going to pick one or the other, the original is better, but they're great movies.
Yeah, and it's funny. I have a Facebook friend, Lindsay, who I think is that's the most terrifying movie she's ever seen. She runs and hides and locks herself in the closet.
The original, though, right?
But then I brought up to her that there's a remake, an American remake. No.
So that's a quick trip down the ones before we narrowed it down to the short list, those were all on there. And if you haven't had a chance to see, I'm sure most of them you probably have seen, but if there are a couple on there, I'm sure you likely haven't. And
even at
check out.
that's a lot of titles. There's probably some we're forgetting.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so we're going to count on you guys, you Fright Clubbers, to let us know what they are.
Wagging a finger after you hear this. That's right.
Or a tip of the hat. We'll take that too. But we'll accept the wag of the finger. If we have to live with it, we'll live with it. But all right, we left off at number 4, and this one came from just a few years ago, and I think there's a part 2 coming out soon.
There is.
And it is The Conjuring.
There's something horrible happening in my house.
You picking up anything in here, hon?
Something awful happened here, Ed.
What is it?
You have a lot of spirits in here, but there's one that I'm most worried about because it is so hateful. This thing has latched itself to your family.
Okay, that one you probably remember since it's
we assume you saw. Everybody
so
saw
recent.
That.
Yeah, boy, that made a ton of money.
It did.
And it's another one, I think we've talked about this before, that is PG-13.
Crazy.
It is, because it's scary.
And I mentioned last week, I made the mistake of watching The Descent, the wrong version with my sister Julianne. When my family was in for Christmas, the year 2013 is when the Conjuring came out. And when my family was in for Christmas, my sister Julianne and I went to go see The Conjuring. It's right up her alley. First of all, it is PG-13. And it's about, it's a ghost in the house. It's a possession. The demonologists are full on Catholic, couldn't be more Catholic. I mean, the whole movie screams Julianne. And so I talked her into going, and she did love it, but she bruised my arm because she just hung on to it. And she's a very strong person, and she just clasped my arm. I think I saw that movie in the theater like 4 times. And while it's not the all-time greatest movie of all time, it certainly isn't. There are certain things where you're like, is that rank odor? That rank odor is because there are 6 girls living in this house. It's because there's a tuna sandwich behind the fridge somewhere or something. But, there are things about it that are a little dumb. But on the whole, it holds up so well. And for me, it's just fun. It is an incredibly fun movie to watch.
But still scary, well acted, well paced, well directed. Well written, of course, based on the Warrens, the true story.
And that's
their
another thing that I
account of a
liked,
true story.
the way they just sort of, at the very end, the Cardinal wants to talk to us about a house in Long Island, a case in Long Island. It's just like,
Which
they're
is
just
the Amityville horror.
They're just dropping things here and there, which I love. For me, the doll didn't work that well.
No,
and then I also didn't really care for Annabelle. I thought it was pretty mediocre.
It was. It had a couple of moments, but especially when up against The Conjuring, it was a little weak.
But I loved The Conjuring.
Yeah, it was one that was, as we said, scary, fun, and just an all-around effective in a bit of a, dare I say, old school type of way.
I agree. I think so. James Wan directed it, and one of the things that I think he did really well was knowing when to use flesh and blood as opposed to effects.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the movies that definitely did not make this list was Mama from a few years ago, and part of it is because I think that it did some things really well. The performances were great. The little kids were great. I mean, the youngest girl was freaky.
But that monster.
It was all CGI, and it was bad. It was bad, and it ruined the entire movie. Well, he learned from that, or he just is smart enough as a filmmaker. He's a good filmmaker to know, and so he had flesh and blood effects where he needed them, and that was everything.
Made a huge difference, yeah. That monster ghost from Mama reminded me so much of that cartoon ghost from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Remember that? The one that was like, give me back the slab. If you've ever seen Courage the Cowardly Dog. But it looked just like it. It was so bad.
You know what? Bad. One day we're going to make it through a podcast where there's no cartoon references.
Why? Why would we do that? But yeah, bad. And good choices, like you just said, especially the one on top of the dresser. It was great.
That's the one. That's the one, man.
Great.
That's the one where I thought my sister was going to break my femur.
So The Conjuring comes in at number 4. And number 3, I don't know. We have to apologize, but we ended up talking so much about this last week. And I know I'm to blame.
That's right.
I'm to blame for that. Shoot me. But at number 3.
You guys just moved in, huh?
How do you know?
I live next door to you. What happened there? Some kids from school? I'll help you. But you're a girl. I'm a lot stronger than you think I am.
I found another body a few days ago. Victim completely drained of blood. Please don't see that boy again.
What are you, really? I need blood to live.
That's right. Let Me In. And of course, the reason it came up last week is because Let the Right One In was in our top 5 for the first decade of this, the 2000s. Yeah. And, it's true, though, as much as it's hard for me to get you to just talk about one without the other. This is really underseen. It was surprising how few people were interested in it.
I know. And it made me mad.
Yeah.
Because, as I said last week, it's got everything. It's got a solid story. It's a vampire story, and it's bloody. It's more bloody than the original.
Oh yeah.
So if that's what you like, it's got more of that.
And for me, it's the reason to see this. The thing that this does better than the original is the Richard Jenkins role, who's also, of course, one of the best reasons to see Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah,
and really
right.
almost anything.
And a great actor, yeah.
And he makes the caregiver role. He just gives it so much more heart. He's heartbreaking. And for me, it actually makes the transition that is the point of the film, Let Me In. Mm-hmm. The whole point of that is I think, made a lot stronger in the remake because of that, because you really feel for the Richard Jenkins character. And you come to realize that's who Cody Smith-McPhee is becoming.
Yeah. And the two kids, both Cody and Chloe Moretz, they're both great.
Yeah, I love Cody Smith-McPhee and everything.
And as you mentioned last week, it also has a very coming-of-age component to it.
Sure.
That works on that level, regardless of whether she's a vampire or not. He's getting bullied at school. She can help with that. And
that's a great line, because that might even be in the trailer that we played. Yeah. But you're a girl.
I'm a lot stronger than you think I am. And it was one, and this has happened a few times, where you're worried and really scared about them making an American remake. Case in point, Old Boy, where they just
that's
ruin
always our
it.
go-to. They ruin it.
But there's plenty
millions.
others. So when we heard they were remaking, no, don't do it. And this is one that really rose to the occasion. It's not better than the original, but it's
good. It's a good movie.
It's good in its own way,
and it's got enough differences that you just see both.
And it even alters that glorious swimming pool scene at the end. Alters it just enough to make it unique, but it's also very, very good.
Yep.
So Let Me In. I know we talked about it way too much. That's my fault last week, but that is at number 3 for the countdown, which leads us to number 2. Boy, these next two are heavy hitters and recent movies, so you probably guess where we're going. Here's number 2.
You can't get rid of the pepper dog.
You can bring me the boy.
Yeah, just from last year. Has it only been last year?
Yeah, it was last year.
The Babadook.
And we listed it the best horror film of 2014, one of the top 10 movies of 2014.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was so close to being a tie for one. It was really a toss-up.
Yeah,
Babadook is just brilliant.
And one of the many things about it, we are members, we're based here, as we've said, in Columbus, Ohio, and we are members of the Central Ohio Film Critics Association. And every year we get together and we do awards for the year in movies. And this past year, the entire, not just the two of us, our entire membership voted Essie Davis as Best Actress of the Year.
That's right.
For that role in the Babadook.
Right. Because she's brilliant.
Great.
She's brilliant. And you know who else is brilliant? Noah Wiseman, the little boy.
That boy, yeah.
Because as we've said before, I mean, you love him and you want to throttle him. And that's important.
Very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
That leads to the point, we think, at the end. But it's set up well. It's... the acting is great.
It's filmed well.
Very well.
There's not a lot of trickery. There's not a lot of effects, but there's just, these angles and colors and elongated hallways. Just enough.
Shadows.
Just enough macabre sort of looking rooms to, I think, really imitate a child's imagination, which is the most important thing. I mean, that's, it's as if the mother has been sucked into the terror of a child's imagination, and then the whole movie can't get out of it. And it's one of the things that makes it so very effective.
Yeah, and the cool way he uses the pop-up book,
God.
And the pop-up graphics, that crazy looking, Babadook paper. It's not paper mache. You know what I'm saying? It's the pop-up paper out of a book. But it's and if you get a chance, and I want to thank Bridget again for this. She hit me to the original
trailer, the short film,
Monster, that it came from, which is very cool to watch. It's certainly not as good. It's a lot more crude.
Sure.
You can tell it's a rough idea.
What's how she got the money to make the full-length movie.
That needs fleshed out. Yeah. But it's good, and you could see, boy, there's something here. And it's even more, for my money, it's even more blatant about the point.
The subtext of the
film. The subtext of the movie. It's even more blatant. So for that reason, I think it's good that she went a little more subtle for the big feature length movie. But because it sets up the fact that the boy, he feels a threat and he feels afraid. And why does he feel afraid?
Right.
Because the vibes he's getting about how his mom feels about the situation, her situation, a single parent, with him. He's and it all comes back to her. At the very end, hope you've seen it already. She's basically going to live with this quote unquote monster, and feed it, and she's feeding it at the end. So okay, we're going to come to a truce about this, And so I think that's more clear in the short film. So if you want to look that up, I believe it's just on YouTube.
Yeah,
Monster, really worth seeing. But certainly the full length version, because. That's not always easy to do. Take a short film and you expand it. You have to add how many odd minutes? At least 60 or so. That's hard to do. I mean, you can have a rough outline that makes a good short film, but then to really make it so much better.
It's funny. It was just two of the really great movies from last year, though, did it? That and Whiplash.
Yeah. But it's not always that way, especially when you see something like, I know it's not the same, but you see a lot of these Saturday Night Live skits that are made into major
or TV shows
or
that
TV
are turned,
shows. So many of them are just utter failures that you have to flesh it out. And in this case, it's even better because you can really Jennifer Kent has the time to build it more slowly.
Yeah,
and then which to me makes it even more effective.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
And it's got enough jump out scares.
It does.
It's not a slasher film by any means. But it works on a intellectual level, on a psychological level, subconscious level, and
also just right up front. There's enough super creepy stuff going on that you're absorbed from the beginning.
Yeah.
And again, I think the topper of all of it, although there's not a single thing about the movie that's not done well, but Essie Davis's performance is just the icing on the cake. She's so good.
So Jennifer Kent was one to really watch now about what she's going to do in the future because. Is she going to, I seriously doubt it, stay in only the quote-unquote horror genre? Probably not. And good for that. I want to see what she can do. But, boy, this is a good start.
Yeah.
A really good start. So that, crazy, but that only came in at number 2.
And number 1 is another fairly new filmmaker, young filmmaker, that will be one to keep an eye on.
This thing, it's going to follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you.
Whoever you are, somewhere, walking straight for you. All you can do is pass it along to someone else.
Yeah, if you've listened to the podcast over the last few weeks, we've talked about this a lot. In fact, we've dedicated one whole episode to it, and it's worth it. It follows just from this year. That it just exploded on the scene, as I'm sure you know. It got so much buzz right away.
And for good reason.
For good reason. Everybody just proclaiming how good it is. And then when we got a chance to see it somewhat early and just right away, you know, you're like, oh, yeah, this is really, really effective in another, like we talked about the Babadook, psychological. It's not a slasher film either.
Although it kind of sets itself up to make you think it's going to be, and I think that's
from that opening.
Yeah,
that was a little more grisly than I thought.
You got a handful
it would be.
of attractive teens, and you just feel like they're just going to get picked off one by one by one. Yeah, the opening.
That girl on the beach.
Yeah, a little more grisly than the rest of the movie really was.
Yeah.
And the movie pays tribute to some of the greatest teenage horror movies, and especially the ones that come off as being sort of a cautionary tale about promiscuity, which is not really what this film is, although you could see it that way.
You could see it that way,
because,
but you got to look deeper than that.
Yeah, it's being called the STD of horror movies.
Yeah, but that's selling
there's
it
so
short.
much more. Oh, yeah. But I think what the film does really well is to take all of the expectations that you have and almost use them to lull you into thinking you know what's going to happen. But then and then you know what? When we did the full podcast, one of the things we did not mention that everybody else has mentioned is the soundtrack.
Right, and shame on us for that.
That's right.
Because it really adds to the overall atmosphere.
It does. It
the
gives
overall mood.
Yeah, gives it a throwback quality.
Oh, it does.
But there's so many things about the film as a whole that reminds you of Halloween.
Oh, right away.
Or of just John Carpenter generally.
Yeah, I think from one of the very first scenes of her, the girl, the first girl, coming out of the house and crossing the street.
Oh, yeah.
Just crossing the street. I'm thinking of, even though she was, of course, panicked. And in the early,
but it's just the suburban street that she was on, and it's the leaves are falling, and it's the big white houses. Yeah, it's
Halloween all over the place.
Very, and then the other thing for me that was probably the most effective thing about it was the camera movement.
Yeah.
And the way the camera would circle around and snake around, and that you, the audience, knew to be checking the periphery before the characters did. And that was so creepy and so effective to me. Is that I'm like circle back. Is that woman still walking toward the building?
Yes.
Like, oh my God, there she is.
Especially the one at the school, when they're in the school. Mm-hmm. And you see that figure all the way, but if your eye catches it, that's the one right there.
And throughout the entire rest of the movie, you're scanning the peripheral for that, which was, just genius.
It really was.
And there are a lot of things. There's a scene, homages. It's clearly not ripoffs. There's a scene that's right out of Halloween where she's sitting in the classroom and she sees outside the window. Yeah. And then there's a scene right out of A Nightmare on Elm Street, where she's upstairs in her bedroom and she can tell her boyfriend across the street is about to die, and she's calling and he's not picking up. Yeah, there are so many ways that he very cleverly, and without like a wink and a nod, just kind of worked some of the canon into this film just to make it sort of embrace what it was, but at the same time, it's a very, very different movie.
Yeah, and it was after that we did the podcast just about this movie. I read a breakdown of it. One guy's opinion was that it was all about the whole culture today of no privacy and NSA, and someone is always following you, that type of thing, which, okay, I can't go there 100%. I see the point. I'm not going to go all in and say that's the entire point of the movie. I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either, but I can see where it lends to some of the tension.
To some of that, yeah. I hadn't gone there, and we didn't discuss that part of it, but I read it and this guy's opinion, and it was well thought out, but it didn't affect me on that level 100%. But maybe if you're of an age where those characters are, maybe that's their world today. I don't know. But it was an interesting theory. I can't say that I'm behind it all the way, but it's one way to think about it.
But one of the things that we liked about it, that we found so odd about it, was that it's almost a time out of time.
Yes.
Their TVs have antennas,
and they're watching old shows,
old creature features.
Yep, but she's got that. No, it's not a BlackBerry. It's
it's an e-reader. It's like a little shell, like a seashell shaped e-reader. Yeah, it's just so odd. And for me, I think it helps sort of span the generational audience because the movie needs a nostalgic feel about it. And I think if they were too immediate, too present tense, that would make it harder for somebody like me to feel nostalgic about it. It would just seem like a modern slasher, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. And it also means that, 15 years from now, it's not going to seem quite as strangely out of date.
And it's also, even if you're not realizing it on a bit of a subconscious level, it's another way that you're just put off balance.
Yeah.
You can't really get a hold. What is it? What's going on? Why don't they get on their cell phones? Why don't they? Well, do they even have you're constantly off balance. And like you said, it sets you up for not knowing where it's going, even though you think you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And the other thing that, if you go back to even the 80s and to a lesser degree the 90s, this was an independent film and a fairly low-budget horror film. And even the really great ones, where they suffer the most is in the acting. I mean, even if you take A Nightmare on Elm Street, Nancy can't act.
Yikes,
a lot of them can't act.
Right.
And if you look at actually, that's for me the biggest problem of all of Wes Craven's films is that he tends to hire actors who cannot act, and it's probably because the pool for so little money was pretty, some slim pickings. These kids can act, and their performances are like an indie drama, not like a horror movie. They're very effectless. They are very naturalistic performances, which also helps the whole movie feel more unsettling because it feels more authentic.
Yeah, that's so true, and just one of the factors that goes into making it so effective. And number one, what do we say by an eyelash over Babadook?
Right,
just an eyelash. It follows just from this year at the top of our top 5 for the first half of the 2010s, which really just sets us up for, we're expecting great things from the second half.
Yes, we are.
I mean, wow.
We're expecting great things just for the rest of this year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, because as all those titles, like we said, that we ran down that didn't quite make it, that's some serious ammunition there.
And that reminds me that next week what we're going to do, the 5 movies that I don't think you've seen, not you, George, but you listeners, I don't think you've seen that you really need to see. Woo! That's going to be next week because of so many that we had to skip that I really wanted to talk about.
I can feel some people right now just thought, oh, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. I have
seen it. I've thrown the gauntlet.
Throwed it down.
That's right.
So that's going to be fun, yeah.
And then after that, you can pick a topic.
Okay. Well, can I? Do I get to do something? But that's our top 5, so please point us out, a wag of the finger or a tip of the hat. On Twitter, we're at Mad Wolf. You can find us on Facebook. We're Mad Wolf Columbus.
2 Ds.
Yeah, for the Facebook page. And you can always hit up the Golden Spiral Media feedback line as well. That's fun. That's at 304-837-2278, Golden Spiral Media. By the way, full of award-winning podcasters.
Yeah.
A great lineup of podcasts there, just to check them out in general. But
that's right, and also we want to thank Corey Metcalf because he's a compatriot over there, and he's from Australia, and we kind of volunteered him to do a podcast with us upcoming about the best Aussie horror. And
we're going to get to that.
Yeah, we are, and you can check him out. He does the triple cast on Golden Spiral Media.
So a lot going on there, and please, as we like to say, keep the conversation going with us. Anytime on Twitter, at Mad Wolf. So next week, it is Hope just throwing it down.
That's right.
Saying, I don't think you've seen this. And sticking her tongue out when she says it.
If you have a thought about that, send it my way, and I'll see if it makes the list.
Yeah, maybe there's one that says, you know what, I don't think you've seen this.
I haven't seen Headless. I'm just going to admit it. I haven't seen Headless. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
We're going to see if we can take care of that. All right. So until next week, this is the Fright Club Podcast.
I'm Hope Madden.
And I'm George Wolf. And until then,
stay frightful, my friends.